짝 웅자나 단진고란 자자 이게신 벤 셈기 카르고 템베 둥둥 나부주니 콘dim나 ngan디 콜런나 ngal 와다티 즉 오늘 말아서 라진진 통연디갈 못다 쳐나 라진진들라 즉 영완도 조르마주지 콘 코라진진이 경부주디 소소 경상상진이 갑대자 라진진 로포지디 소소를 제과에 대승과다 대지 대승구다 라리 아니 라리 탐비 계단자가 sem전람부 진이 레소 탐지 콜라테니 중에서 스타딩오네레 마란조 sem전 세디가라 계산주저레 디바 루브르윈 디바다 제디가라 sem전시 거래 이 랑진진 제왕 란진 제왕 단진 떼어도 줄이어래 근데 인디가라 마란조 장주기 셈 제와 니지 시야데 sem전을 때니 깨고도아 아니 즉 토마 메베니 규고데 가격이 sem전데 랑게 마마지 지해요 말와 닌 마지바 어다 두시네 니베 간지 장주기 sem세데 타나 sem전을 때니 깨고야지 차고 와 사기기에는 즉 숭기틀이야 sem전을 때니 주고도아 인지가라 sem전데 시부지 자침부에 딘디 자침부 딘침부 인사 계대가가 sem전을 땅고래 세순고래 딩고니 디도아 디 레소 탐직 콩라테니 중에서 세 규전대 그거도 레소 가리지비 기도 가리주나 에네 sem전을 테니 중아래 세 레소 탐직 레비연된 탐직 텔된 저래 경다 부가 탐제랑 길랑스 지대나 네바 탐제 둥알 탐제 랑 진진이 되는 중에서 스타데모네레 혹대가 다시 맞이나 너바데 제니 요바 소리시 요아레데 타르투나 디 너바 제니 케기 차킨 랑이 마투디야레 냠지 야보지 제베나 디조 야보지 통이나 딘랑 투사데자 랑 진진 투데 랑 제버즈미 진진들 투디야레 와다티 인디 직 동랭이 냠렌데서 두스치니 랭과 규전 어떤 딜을 두고 파 가서 오래 단다디 되네 도와 거다 대 두고 가서 힘지 파봉 그때나 배 세부숭도 즉 렘베 카둘라 아니 배 가서 오래 잠베꾼이라지 잠베 미바 짤도 따네 레야 아니 땅에 갑둘라 아니 니지 미바 짤도 따네 파 sem전이 방야 랑도 류lon저 게자도 잡아 렌디가라 젠기 아니 베 디바당 아니 베 네다 나자다 계속가 갈래야 도수고도 오다티 계속 빼면서 개좀 봐 대다르잖아 포아 투섭기 나왔다 테민 두바 델타나 지리 온 데마츠게랑라 샤담 야칼지 제 분파 동고토도 자경 세링부 퇴바 제경 탐제 론의 예인 제경 되비 닝케바 주제경메 바체네 세모 분네 라와탈 지디 지마롱 레와 추타메팔라 미용 랑기 킹 kambu 마셔와 츠린네 바치 괴 델터 베누나 도 케바 쳔보 야바 쳔보 켐바 쳔보 로제 쳔보 자와 델라스 제레숭 도나 란친징기 지숭에 뉴모남 남기 니미수 뒤숨 사게 탐지기 깔베 버도 숭장 제페 타메 온장 곤도셰바 테레삼 소랍 곤델 된 라마탐베 맹아기 심기 창도도 그르에 출기 양양 셈잘 네퍼 토퍼자 디에나 치르나 데토 누장 semgyu chedan 돈 토도 켈와 온라스 다 란진진랑 오네 즉 견도 따나 아니 소소구겨 가래 잡아 즉 semgyude rangi semde 최단 대화 지금 거래. 때마다 란 진진기 때 버르다 최대당 강념술렌지 최대당 애니베 랑게 심규 바 요란 아버지겠다 하는 소리지. 바르도 찌네. 바르동 쳐보지게 소리지. 와다 디랑 진진을 끈질 다도나 그 바르동도 개도 거. 바르동도 매차로 거. 어때 인도가 심규 최단 대화 지금 그래. 돈토도 개와 온 때면은 연된 민다바 탐색이야 란 진진소 소나 뇨모바 펠베 프로수 런이요 또 같은 거네. 다 군다는 뭐 제겠지 순구도 와. 즉 말한서 마다 뒤가 수수 추바 인도도래 지금 알아대. 구조 같이 탐제 그로에 에네베 추수로 그래. 세테문에 어떻게 군다는 뭐지 배 대숭아대. 오늘 날 디도아 뱀보도아 마다 마제베세나 추바 인도도 시리자 지금아서 내기하래. 다대 눈대 간던 회자지키 미드 간던라트 에네베 셈데 시부지디도 와. 계산을 겸거는 뭐지? 바기 람림 나 갑두들라 곰볼 루두기 숭은 나 요레스. 잠불린의 최대 만다 숨지네. 지 루기 두야. 루기 까제 누리제 루기 토리 최두야지. 지 다기 토리 두야. 아니 제가 다년 버레지 도 지네. 리지긴 잘았더니 최두야. 지 셈기 때문에 두야. 낭 대나니 다 누아 베페나 자갈라 힌두기 근데 다 힌두 강가다 말해. 대 힌두 출루지라 강미시 점무여래. 배 누구 배 살티제 누구 처음에 불이야. 루이에는 배 처음에 불 때 같이 지야 된대. 디주 또 루이 최시야네. 또 루기 두타 같이 누리지야. 오다 데데도 와. 아니 즉 말아줬다. 즉 땅다님 보다 다시 즉 제시도 와. 공부받는 데나 두스지네. 그래서 또 리젠 달았더니 아니 최제야. 다 남바상계비 남바상계비나 당당해야 요래. 뒤치 차시를 맞아 남바상계비 충회만 말해. 충회 말해. 뇨몽 가르자. 뇨몽데 못하지. 아니 sem기 또 sem기 라페 대외인 중에 아니 장주기 sem기를 끼야. 왔다 도스지네. 최제야 다 남바 최제 단다. 또 sem기단이 제야 돼. 대마도 최지준다나 젠바니데 최지준다 셈디 최순루면서 니저 여러서 숨과 이거네 가래래 말아줘 누구에네 배 라바도 솔동레다네 도스 불이나 나니 처음에 불이나 나니 녀모투수 랑치스 콜투그로와 아니 나게 디치게나 셈데 나게 제님부르단 배 dom바님부지 된데나 셈니 배 마루 코주 강아체 투그로와 셈데 콜랑 김치 출시에나 나긴 줘봐 디니까가도 루기 남겼디니까가도 너무 좀 가르도 디니까라 남베 최체당 얼마 내 셈기랑 최당들이 디니 셈기 규체당들이 게 첨부지니 오다 로종즈데 게 첨부지니 해야지 오다 대바 두고 와 디니까 균도 셈다 다시 당고 쉬울 게 첨부래 디니 남림이 밖에 라마테서 숨고다 지분들이 말라 가서 망배유스 말라 따지지 지분들이 쌤다 따지지 해야 돼 쉬우지 맹아 진짜인지 왔다 되게 공부하지 아니 자샤나스.
We will read one more page and then we'll stop after that and have a question and answers. From here, it's on page 50, last paragraph. The text tells about some of the practices or advices by a great Kadamba masters or Geshes. Geshe Namoa has suggested, quote, while you are chopping your brick tea, saying, quote, come on, down with you, unquote, think that you are pounding on the head of your own selfishness. Geshe Ben has also advised, quote, I will stand guard at the doorway of my mind with a sharp spear of mindfulness. If he attacks, I will attack. If he relents, I will relent, unquote. So here, this basically, as you know, refers to, your self-centered ego. You need to be sort of, tuning with your own ego mind. If it is strong, likewise, you should be more alert, more stronger. And if it is not too active, you can likewise become more relaxed. So also, Langri Thangpa, another Geshe, has said, quote, give profit and victory to sentient beings, unquote. Why? Because the accumulation of all kinds of goodness arises in reliance upon them. Quote, take loss and defeat upon yourself, unquote. Why? Because all harm and sufferings come from holding yourself dear. So here, what Geshe Langri Thangpa has mentioned, giving profit, victory to others, because the very practice that we consider so sacred, important, such as compassion, love, kindness, altruism, even the highest enlightenment, this all comes because of others. If there are no other sentient beings, there is no way that you can practice all of this. So, again, here you see the importance of others and how the role of others. And in the text by Papunga, a great master, in his text when he talks about the practice of Tonglen, giving and taking, he also emphasized the importance, same as like Geshe Langri Thangpa did. When you do the practice of giving and taking, in taking, you primarily use the skill of loving kindness, and then take suffering, problems, of others. And when you give, you use the skill mainly of compassion, and then giving, your own body, wealth, fruits of positive merits and everything. So the practice of giving and taking. And continue with the reading here. If we practice in this way, then just as the person can be laid low by food poisoning, so our self-centered attitude will be defeated. So long as we cannot do this, even if we load a yak with the monastic robes, or have an empowering ways placed on our heads 1,000 times, or listen to the doctrine for our entire lives, or give up everything mundane, no matter how we try, we will not achieve the object of our desire. We will be restless with pain, like the mongoose in grief over the death of its offspring. Instead, we will have to draw in our thumbs without extending them to others, begging for help. If we can persevere as advised, it is taught that we will become followers of the great vehicle. Our minds will become expansive. We will be able to elevate others, and we will develop great wisdom. Essentially, if all the Buddhas of the 3 times were to teach for eons about the disadvantages of disturbing emotions that arise out of self-centered attitude, they would never end. However, the above explanation contained in the Buddha's teachings, the commentaries to them, and the instructions of the Supreme Spiritual Masters is a means for making us aware of the defects of our own attitude. Think about it again and again, test it, and become convinced of it. If we do this, whatever our external behavior may be, our mind stream will be mixed with the doctrine, and our aims will be fulfilled. But if we do not, all those things labeled as qualities will only serve to gratify our self-centered attitude. Within us will be the friendly relative who provokes and increases our disturbing emotions. So, as we see here, the self-centeredness or ego mind, this kind of creates sort of like a black curtain wall between your own, mind and practice. So if we remove that, then we will have an opportunity to have a practice and our mind kind of intertwined to engage in practice in our day-to-day life. So Kongdan Rinpoche, a great master, a Tibetan master, he also remind us about that, especially the practitioners, when they don't kind of... So Kongdan Rinpoche has mentioned that, especially those people who consider themselves as Buddhist practitioners, when they are not very kind of alert or aware of what they are doing, they usually assume that they are practitioners who want to achieve liberation, and then they kind of, they think that they are a great practitioner. But when they look closely what they are thinking, what they are doing, in fact, they are doing everything that is really mundane, not kind of going up or liberation. So they are doing exactly opposite. So it happens. And it happens because one is a slave to one's own self-centeredness. And this happens such as, practitioners, they have, text in front of them and maybe holding a mala and reciting a mantra, and it looks really kind of, serious practitioner, but inside mind, who knows, what they are thinking or what. So related to that, His Holiness, in his recent teaching, he talks about, different faith and traditions and how, the ways they do their own practice. And he kind of came up with these three, category. First, tradition or practice or religious faith, more based on physical, physical practice. And Geshe was saying that he saw some practices in Jammu and Kashmir, northern India, belonging to one of the Hindu, tradition. What they do is they offer, basically the part of their body. They tie up, finger with the, cloth, and then, put oil on it, and they offer it as a butter lamp. They offer their part of the body as a part of their practice. So these are really much, kind of practice that they are using physically, sort of torturing of themselves, which is, religious practice in their own way. And then there are another category in which primarily focus on what we call, voice or sound, chanting, recitation. There's a whole group of practitioners who are primarily focused on that. But the Buddhism is really about what we call, the insider, focus on the mind. And although first two does exist in Buddhism, but they are kind of sort of branches, not a primary. So the most important Buddhist practice is really focus on your own mind, the inside, and challenging afflicted or disturbing emotions, and identifying them, and how you are kind of becoming a slave of those afflicted emotions. And it's really training one's own mind. Its practice is within, it's inside. And otherwise, both physical as well as verbal, there is no sort of guarantee. You are doing something physically really kind of, serious practice, but mentally, what's going on? There is no guarantee of, what's happening with the mind. Likewise, chanting, recitations, you can do something vocally, but again, inside might be wandering or scattering or thinking different, things. So, but when you are really focused on the mind itself, then it becomes really kind of focused, and the mind, it's the mind, only the mind itself. So, the great saying of the Lamrim stages of path teaches, lineages teaches that when you are in a crowd, make sure that you look after your mouth or what you're saying, and when you are alone, just look after your mind. So these are kind of looks a common expression, but with a profound message. And we'll stop here, and you can ask questions if you have. Any questions or comments or thoughts or debate? And
that's an extreme that we are not supposed to go to, correct?
Yeah, it's 조금 해봐래죠. 네 가래서 내가 힌두 시절로 말이야. 조금 처음에 배우셔라. 내가 힌두 시절로 지금 열어. 네 가래서.
띵이 통수. 사두 카실라 누구 숨지름이도. 가르쳐서 내가 컴스다 즉 치 추진 난기 추진들도 와. 단 치 추진 나라다데 힌두강가 말에 가셔다 오늘 양 단 제니즘에서 때도 양파 미스가 디도와 제나 체와라 배 때도 체외장은 반 디치기도 와. 다데 많이 봐지기 최진수도 그배 마르치지야 돼. 난그 최진수도 소소 위라는 배 처음에 볼 때인데 노래티니 처음 불이야. 근데 요르스스도 와. 맞아 좀더 자외나 라지 강송 고니 라바는 숨지기 좀 알아 되지디가라 디가라 최진되게 되게 제용도 와. 어떻게 디가라 직다 힌두 강가도 말해 돼. 힌두 라리 망보래. 다직 강이나 미식 나랑 그 통통소 자무든데 사두 가지는 누구 가셔립니다.
So you're saying he doesn't know exactly which tradition of Hinduism, but in Hinduism he met several sages, what they call sadhu. They are like a Hindu practitioner, and some of them have only like a couple of fingers. And when he asked what happened, they basically the answer was they did practice of sacrifice, and they offer their finger as part of your body, and other kind of sacrifice too. There are different ways of offering a sacrifice, out to the external, internal, but not all of Hindus. Some tradition or sects of Hinduism does that, and we do find this kind of philosophy or practice in the Buddhist tenets text. When there is a kind of opposing others' view or thoughts, and so we do find in the text.
Those practices, again, the efficacy of any practice is dependent on what the practitioners has in their own mind as a result of that practice.
디다 냠내 출루 가리네 냠내 가르치네 게다 라레데
Motivation is
소소게 스쿨론 라레고 얼어도 다지게 출루 가리네 냠내 지금 소소게 룩소게 냠내 시단로 쇼르다디 타르투나 소소 삼당다 당초라 그래 그놈 라레고
레다 아주 낭빠 있나 굴롱도 쉬우지게 전부 잡아라. 단 지든 제법 켈나 소소 굴롱아 던진데 와 아요. 다 링기 군 지든 제법 그런 배 제외다니 캠베다니 아니 배 띠인데 대파 그런 깨지게 담바치다나 다 텐데 테페토니 굴롱 엠바 깨니 테페토니 용기에 내면 이 소리 다티 니 다다 셰식 말해 넘버 3이 있네 깨제 깨탐바다 굴롱라 시부르라래 그래 취 상하기 취 자모이나 굴롱 야부 마주나 아니 배 나선 숨라 깨 누가 그렇지 시부지 굴롱데 시부 깨침버려
So yes, in from Buddhist perspective, in Buddhism, of course, motivation or intention is considered as the most important, and for example, in Vajrayana tantric practice, even if you are practicing the highest form of vehicle, but having a wrong intention, one can take a rebirth in the lower realms. But he don't know about other faith, such as believing in the concept of creator. Under that, the practitioner usually kind of have a complete faith, trust in the creator, and then therefore kind of love and compassion. So how does motivation comes into that kind of practice? He said he's not sure about that.
I was wondering about perhaps the parallels between offering your finger and the monks who have been self-immolating, and if there are parallels to that.
나 예자다 배바다 지단 소소 소고 메라 당에 줘라. 내다다 조고 메라 당에 된저 걸어오다 집어로 올라오래. 총어도 오지 시안을 되게 연하라고 했어요.
다때도 꿀롱 뱃가 가차디어 레스로와 다 단다 벌라 메다다데 가르소리다 마셔 중기 도숲 시우지당 gemgorum biji sujoni jive tham baji chegores je kana do kala gemgorum biji de ka de chamatu phajone duchu de mazadi tasusu bagi 다 첩시기 돈이 현지지 제고 현지지도 수소 왕와도 류이래 젠라 디제베니 차와차고 그래 딜리가라 다 담을 진다 말하지 라메카데 장인 말을 누스제니다 수술비데 누스 점링라 뭐야 돈달라 굴롱 땡지케니 디투스치기 얼마서 디 최기 단데베데 발자를 차용 말했으러 와 강할 땡지 돈이래
I don't know if you are referring to
나한테 섬기도스
self-immolation that's happening in Tibet, and did by Tibetans. Here Geshe is saying again, it's he sees his personal opinions. Those who are offering, part of their body finger as a butter lamp, and also they're burning. He thinks that there are two different kind of intentional motivation. What's happening inside Tibet is obviously under the occupation and the suffering that they endure under Chinese government. At the same time, those who did a self-immolation don't want to engage in aggressive, act and harm others. So what they have is only their body. So they use their own body to kind of express, their kind of conditions to outside world, and it's more kind of expressing rather than like a dedication or faith that we see in those who offer fingers. That's he said that's his own opinion.
다디 출입 장바에서 자기가 말다. 첩시된 데비 다 지위 탑람 쪽 돈이 몰라 제단시 다디 지단에 가만히 연대껴지래. 가만히 얘기하더라 찡이잖아. 니가 통구도 달래는 때라 통구도 가르잖아. 말한주 점불링 내사대 벤저를 든 거야. 예미 주고 싶으시자. 예미 중대. 미강가 벤저랑 고통디 갈라 띠띠 가져 미라겠다는지 학국민도 되게 잘못이도 와.
So this self-immolation in Tibet and by Tibetans, it's as you see, it's like a political act, or demonstration or protest, which is not new. Actually, we have seen before, and it attained its result, for those who did before in the past. But however, with the Tibetan case, situation not the same. Because I said it's kind of amazing, surprising, even after many Tibetans self-immolated, but there is no positive response. Maybe because China becoming rich and wealthy, and people need, of course, to negotiate or nice, friendly with China. Those Tibetans who did self-immolate didn't came up with the result that they want. Kathy, you have. 인지도 남주치기 고랑치라 당 남주 인지토니 개와된데 라고래. 개와 라오라다. 개와디 다 제시도 한데 자고래로도. 개와세다 뭐네 랑기 링아 이숨기 가르지 제게나. 또 젠라 팽기였나? 딘 디부데 대완중기였나? 랑기 자주데 이게 와레스. 랑기 자주지 제네. 자 어떤 디부데 누가 준 거였나? 이 자주데 미게 와레스. 딕바레스 와레스. 남베두스 이제 시켜드렸어. Again, this is kind of as a translator, it's not Geshe-la, but my own, because there are lots of vocabulary that we use in Buddhist teaching, which in fact comes from Christianity, other faith and religion or English, and then they tends to have a kind of same meaning where it comes from. But we kind of very openly, freely, use in Buddhism, which I don't know, sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. So, but Geshe-la is saying, so virtue, when we said it, in Tibetan we use the word which is gewa, which means, other translation that we use is positive deeds, virtuous state. So what it means in Buddhist understanding, what we are supposed to mean, I don't know whether it means exactly in English or not, what we are supposed to mean when we say virtue or non-virtue. Virtue means whatever activities or actions that you created, whether it be through physical, verbal, mental, if it brings benefit for others, and in the result, happiness for others, and that kind of act is considered as a virtue. And non-virtue, negative, sinful activities, whatever expression may be physical, verbal, mental, if it is harming others, resulting in unhappiness and suffering, generally we define as a non-virtuous act.
재산 낭바 쪼쪼 윤리기 다 남베 투다 지어래 지게는 윤리 텐데 강갈은 케링 거와 윤리 텐데 수디가라 지 디부데 유멜 때네 마케바 따비귤레 마케바 아니 튠비귤레 케바 튠비규데양 뉴든지 시거와 띵디가라 지 랑기 자체디 자와데 장고치 제베나 띵디부데 대완주 거와래 텔라가 와람 거래 랑기 자체디 두베지체나 띵디부데 동알 준 거래 디 딕파시 거래 다도 수체니 윤리 텐데 돈이 삼다나 세고가 뭐다 쳐야지 그래서 쳐야지 그래서.
So this really kind of in Buddhism, this kind of virtue and non-virtue, how it is defined, is really kind of validated by Buddhist concept of cause and effect, cause and effect precepts. And cause and effect precepts is actually, the philosophy or view which is equally interpreted by all four school of thoughts or four tenets. And under the cause and effect, the understanding or sort of conditions is that whatever thing came into existence, they came to existence because of the cause. So they are not causeless, is the first condition. Second is things that exist cannot arise from something which is permanent. So, it has to be impermanent. They don't have a permanent cause. And then third is their cause should be sort of, concomitant, suitable cause, basically. When something gives result, that kind of cause will give the result which is expected, not something totally different. So these are some sort of conditions that we find under cause and effect. And when you look at the cause and effect, then, we kind of use this kind of understanding to virtue and non-virtue, non-virtue being negative and then suffering, virtue being positive and ending in happiness or goodness.
Then can we define what you mean by happiness?
대화라의 컨디션 되고서 다 되시잖아.
대화들하다 림바 망보 연구로와 리서 대화 연구를 센서 대화 연구를 서로와 대화 연구를 보다 서로와 대화를 다 디디가라 리서 대화데 지 칼라지 심부지잖아 칼라지 레기로와 다 대참 디다 또스 락바르와 센서 대화데 또 랑기 세멘하니 참체다 근데 삼로다 에니베 디지디가라 je 마시베 시스템나 리키치 참참들래야 도와 에니 미테 미나 지마토 소 거르데근 존데지 에니베 센다 하자직 누 연구도 와 삼들라 디 조게 거디는 또또스 미남잖아 로 다와 윤신나 텐디 레베아시 도와 ngamangaso jundiga like kem gorom baje kala opta kebje nabani veje ji lamrim sungji gala tele sungdo a ta kandeshi yongguye na samsamji yongguye de 이거 소소 미남라 짱 도시데 가티나 연구민도 삼삼라 지금도 만나지도 가티 나 가티네 저게 야라네 이 미남지 가서 뚝뚝지 집에 지신디 지금도 이는 만나지도 남 제시야 말에 이처럼 대화되다 뭐니 다 텐데기 미남지 윤신데 따로 누구에나 다 뭐니 전주나 소 나진지 자주 생기 따지네 내내 대화를 로알아 선제주의 기르급제 뭐마 지 인사를 삼선지 딱 수수 자주 샘길에 끼어 말와 걔네들 빼야버려 람나진 소리 그 끼어 말에 뒤에가 23들 미남 자들 좋아지 누구 다들 랍스 뒤에서 말해 미남 중 20미남 자들 시위 자르면 제 시위지 숨고도 돼 이 그뒤나 용금에도 살아 지 미남 미죠 그런 댕인지 디자데 센데인데 레시지 전에 에미기 가려갔다나지 내 안면 되긴지 다 잡으죠 용도
Defining happiness, the happiness could be defined at a different level. For example, it could be happiness at the level of, physical senses, sensory level happiness. And those are more kind of easily, can be easily experienced, such as having a nice meal and then having a sense of satisfaction and, but the second one, the happiness related with the mind, which is more difficult and sometimes you can feel it, but it's really expressed in words. And Krishna is saying that so so that kind of the happiness or joyfulness experience, as mentioned before, cannot be expressed into words. And Krishna is saying sometimes, he heard when he was young at monasteries, his teachers and His Holiness kind of explaining how sometimes we have this glimpse of experience, which is, kind of unexpressible, but you can feel it, and for a short moment, especially in related to when you meditate on loving kindness or compassion, and whether it is actually real happiness or not, but there's maybe a little part of it. So because he himself has that kind of experience when he does some kind of practice, but it's really hard to put into words. And in Buddhism, we talk about the consciousness and mind of the higher realm. We also talk in the meditation about physical and mental pliancy, or sometimes suppleness. The mind becomes very subtle and reach at the high level, and what the nature of the mind is totally kind of positive, and what they experience is pleasure and joy, which for us is difficult to explain because we have no experience, So, and with having said that, then when Shantideva mentioned in his text, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, the quote that we mentioned several times before, by riding the horse of bodhicitta, who don't want to go from one happy place to another happier place. So once you have attained this altruistic or the awakening mind, it's always a joyful, and the more higher you go up, it's more joyful. So so you can sometimes meditate on compassion, and see the experience of this, joy or pleasure or happiness. Any question? There's one more. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Uh-huh.
loving kindness. One, what exactly is loving kindness, and how does it compare to compassion? Like, how is it different? And it's said that Maitreya is supposed to incarnate at some point in the future. How do we know that it hasn't happened already, or when will we know when Maitreya actually is here?
이 겨와 참발라 그서 마음 배상계에서 인데 마음 배상계 겨와 참발 피기 요하다 피기나 폐차에 매당 아주 간지 사고 그래서 인데 이념도 되시는 겨와 참발라 다드네 식드네 참라야지 참바다 닝제라야지 예와 간지 치고를 개발 간지 치고랬어
잠깐은 이제 민남 예와 쳐야 돼. 민바 심전타니 매 직바 직경하네. 남바다 가래. 니제세네 누가 단적인 나바치. 잠바스인데 레와다 덴디긴 나바치지라. 아니 잠바스고. 간제 미바치 임발라 미바 심전타지 탐제데 미고. 지디 심전 탐제레 미네 누가 타나 치마루 냐바. 지디 심전 탐제레 미네 이 레와던 돈에 치마루 냐바. 니가 탐지 잘해. 어다 때인디가라 니지당 잠바기 개발된 누스치. 다 지든 잠바 같이 피기래. 간지사 모르잖아. 빠디 지든 잠바 피기 단 띠리 소마 제야라. 통 무슨 틈에 주야요 말해. 마음이 일차려. 중세 권규비 규정자는 중세 권규비 애니베 두투야요 말해. 다 롱체마 땡기 말해. 땡기가라 다 롱체마 단다 가르사라 맞아. 가상상기 동즈 주제제네 애니베 그디 피기라. 도자가 뒤요봐. 아니 이 템바거든 누구야? 차서 줬는데 너희 가잖아. 숨겨. 다티 줬는데 자기 전주 초고리 숨네. 앞에 지 누자 투모만이 봐라. 상하기 초고 걸어가는 손에 소소 가서 두근데라. 지 멋진 걸 왔네요. 줬는데 때 운걸 주고 고바메와 되게 됐습니다. 얘는 줬는데 숨들이 이치지. 루스제니 누기로 말아. 다티 제바츠마게 유라 말에 통문주로 유라 말에 도스제니 다티 롱차마게 이치지 않았어.
The difference between loving kindness and compassion in Buddhist context when we use the Tibetan word for these two and apply the Tibetan understanding. Loving kindness, both of these two are in terms of target, same target, aims at unlimited numbers of sentient beings, all other sentient beings. But the nature of the mental state is a little different. For the compassion, the wishes or desire is may all sentient beings be separate from the suffering, separation from the suffering. But for loving kindness, the wishes or desire or prayer or the nature of the thought or mental state is may they be together with the happiness. So that's how we differentiate between these two. And about the future Buddha Maitreya, usually when we use kind of Buddhist logic and apply to or the valid cognition, how to kind of prove the existence of certain things. We categorize phenomena into three groups. The first one is manifested phenomena, things that we directly perceive by our physical senses. And to prove those, we don't need to cite a reason or scriptures. We say, I see it, I hear it. The manifested phenomena can be proved directly by, you don't need to rely upon others. Then second, what we call or categorize as slightly hidden phenomena. Slightly hidden phenomena here, to prove the existence of those things, we usually rely upon reasoning, the evident, because of that, that thing exists. And then third thing is, extremely hidden. So under that comes such as Maitreya Buddha, extremely hidden the phenomena or things are beyond the reach of basically normal human beings, intelligence. So what we do is we cite the scriptures, or we cite text of what we consider as enlightened beings, because such and such Buddha said that, therefore, it will happen. So Maitreya Buddha, and there's a text or scriptures called Sutra of Auspiciousness. In that, Buddha, the historical Buddha Shakyamuni talks about future Buddha, past Buddha of these eons, and the specific disciples and the teachings beginning from Four Noble Truth. So we Buddhists kind of solely rely upon basically Buddhist scriptures to prove that there is a future Buddha Maitreya, and obviously we don't know exactly when and how and he is going to come, or he already gone. So
아기 루스베나 만지기 코로나지 세도 고수도 중에 무기다 이제 고수가래 근데 점대는 랑기 엔데니스도 세고 수가래 마음바나 가서 상기 동시만 용기도 세고
So in that sutra, Buddha talks about how many Buddhas come in this auspicious, what we call eon, and how long the Buddha's teaching will survive on this particular planet, and we find all of those in that particular sutra or text.
Yeah.
You have a question? Last question.
Yeah, when we're talking about happiness at the level of mind, returning to Laura's question, when we sit in meditation and we can achieve a level of mind that is, even for a second, devoid of self-cherishing, self-grasping, that, to me, is a mind of happiness.
Mm.
And then also when that mind can open up to for the wish for all sentient beings to be happy. But there's also a level of mind that's beyond concept, which also is happiness, I believe.
Morangi sangi tingel lo rak chewa taana si yide la semde la oro. Dita samsam gomjo de zamale ani tajige dangme tokpa sherab la ore. Dangme tokpa da takzime wada tende kabla ani ya nyongwa tene da yamana kabri nyingje kumdi zambal kalor nyongwa tene dende da yor samgudu la go sare. And samsam ya yide imba khajira nga zo semge nyongma toya la ore. Nga zo gi kalore. Nyongmi she dende yide da semde dende yonge mero to la go sare.
Or even outside meditation.
Gomma jane ge yang kalore tinte nyong tungye la ore. Gom gi chilo la samsam yan semge yide nyong tungende.
semna devasindi inji gomla rale wae ko yanjang marwa nijila sosi ji waya wochi chebena sosi ichimbaji ngo atti tsambara ichimbada danjin jamando sune mise chajojena danji shu chubutu ina mijisena ichimbada yongorwa enna gidi pang kyun mashege mijila neka pe mij 소소라 다쟁인데 세제라나 이침바스 용거라 이침바스 말해 오늘 지 템바 뚫네 하나랑 디부데 대화 중국이나 사실 계속해 산다 눈춤이 왜 대화 차지.
So when we say the happiness of the mind, we are talking something very kind of general, broad. It doesn't necessarily has to be something that can be experienced only through meditation. Sometimes we might have an experience of just being very nice to somebody, and then you have a really great sense of satisfaction, feeling of joy. Those can be considered as Nyo khale takzin lo sabi takzin me.
이 침바 짱지랑 뭔지 지기요 말했어.
So simply saying sense of satisfaction again is simply, it doesn't necessarily has to be equal to happiness. Could be many other forms or
이
ways.
침바는 단지 충분되게 미지. 기지 파나 미지의 미지. 그런 게 나한테 내가 세야서는 이 침바도 연구로. 이때에 믿어라.
So
개발하면 이 침바도 연구하는. 이 개발하면 내가 말아. 나지 간데서 저거서 들어가라. 다 통나 이 침바 좀 많이 봐. 지부도 대원 징기였나? 이 대원 지부도 동안 징기였나? 이 믿어.
뭐 저 대화시 이 대화래.
아이
이 대화래.
이 대원. 이래 세비가라가 가수월에
takzin mebe kalu samsami kala wore takzin dine pang la wore pang kalu entinde.
단진나 되게 화나는 이 대화 용도요. 난 이게 담배 용이야. 단진나 이제 생인데 즉 가츠지 유몽슈 제윤되게 셈르르 빠트고요. 하다 얘기가 담아요.
So
유몽 가츠슈 중인데 그래서 셈은 뚜라요. 년몽 세대 코랑 셈럽도 푸버적인 짓을 쓰고
So self-grasping or grasping to permanent, if you have totally kind of eliminated those, or if you don't possess those, then definitely there will be a great sense of joy or happiness of the mind, and it is really much related to the afflicted emotions in general. The stronger afflicted emotions you have, because the less there is a happiness. The lesser you have afflicted emotions, the more calmer and relaxed and happy your mind be. Okay.
Thank you, Krishna.
Ave kove shingam de pendan de wa malu jongwe ne jere siwa tinjin gyatso yin shabe site parto denjo je jamba pawa jidara kem kondo sambo deya de shin de teta gunge je son daro jen yawa de da tamje rabdo Tuzum shabe gyawa tamje ge ngowa kanla jodo ngaba yin da shin gewe tsawa de gyu Sambo chunje rabdo ngowa iki In the land and the circled by snow-white mountains, the source of all happiness and benefits flows near your person, generating sea, Tenzin Gyatso, remain to the samsara ends. Just as the Bodhisattva-man's usually attain omniscience and since manifestation, so now I too dedicate these merits to try and follow in their footsteps. As all the victorious Buddhas of past, present, and future praise, dedication, dear supreme. So now I do dedicate this source